Hi, my name is Chelsea Johnson. I never thought that I would be a beneficiary of an organization such as the Finley Project. It's a parent's nightmare to lose a child. However, I'm forever grateful for the Finley Project and the blessing that it is to moms and families like myself. Now, if you were to see me out and about with my family, you may see my husband Quasi and I with 4 children. But the truth is, I'm a mom of 6. 2 of them people just don't see. One child that I never met and lost through miscarriage, and my sweet baby boy Christopher Jordan Johnson, who passed away when he was almost 4 months old. He passed away on April 10th, 2015. We have children who are 8, 6, 4, and 2, and our 2-year-old is Christopher's twin fraternal sister. Now, the day that Christopher died started out as any normal day, but then soon turned to tragedy when I found my son no longer breathing when he was taking his afternoon nap. And even after our efforts of trying to do CPR and to revive him, the first responders that came, the helicopter flight team that transferred him over to Armour Palmer, and all the amazing staff, my son went home to be with the Lord that night at 10:20 p.m. He died in my husband's arms. Now, although we were surrounded by a host of loved ones and friends, we felt so lost. And the biggest question was, now what? Then to add more insult to injury, when we finally made it home from the hospital about 2 a.m. that morning, we were greeted by the Department of Family Services before we could even walk in the door wanting to do an investigation because my son died. It was hard enough to think about how we were going to tell our children that their baby brother just died, but to then feel like we were being interrogated, it made us feel even more defeated in what was already a low that simply can't be described by mere words. Anyone who has lost a child is haunted by that question, what could I have done differently? Could I have saved him? Could I have saved her? It's like being in a dream and not being able to wake up. And I had some questions for God. And I wrote a poem a few days after my son died, and I felt like God gave me some words. The poem is called I Asked God. What do you do when you lose your son, your baby, a twin, when everything about her reminds you of him? How is so much pain in this life ever a part of your plan when you could have stopped it before it ever began? Do you really believe that I can handle all you have allowed me to walk through while still fully and faithfully believing and trusting in you? What happens to me when everyone else has moved on and I'm left with the brokenness and grief of losing my son? And he answered, my child, I know your heart breaks and the pain seems too much to bear. I heard your desperate pleas to save your child. In that very moment, I was right there. And although it doesn't seem fair to lose a life so precious and pure, I must tell you some things of which you can be sure. Despite what you are enduring, my promises are still true. I know the end from the beginning, so you can fear not, for I am God and I am with you. Don't try to understand, because my ways are higher than yours and my plan is without flaw. I am God, and you must not forget that it was my son whom I freely gave to redeem you from the law. See, you were bought with a price, and it came at a high cost. I know the pain of losing a son, but it was worth the price to save the lost. His life was perfect, but his job was done. And this is the same for this story. This is the same for your son. I work all things together for good because you love me and you know that death is not the end. And you can have the peace of knowing that you will see your son again. You are blessed in your mourning and you will be comforted so that you may comfort others. You have walked an uncommon road and journey that I have not called for most mothers. As you continue in this life, walk by faith and not by sight. And when I call you home, it is only then that you will fully realize that everything is indeed all right. So here I am today. Is this journey easy? Not in the least bit. Us grieving moms many times carry invisible scars that the world knows nothing about. It starts with hurtful things that people say when people say, at least you can have other children, or at least you can have more children, or at least it wasn't an older child, or at least they didn't suffer. Anything that begins with at least is probably going to head in the wrong direction very quickly. It just isn't helpful at all. People also tell us that God won't put more on us than we can bear. This just isn't true, and it is not even biblical and nowhere found in the Bible. It just further shows me why we need God, because it really is just too much to bear without Him. And then when people tell us how we should feel, like feeling a certain type of way gets in the way of other people's lives. Or the famous quote that I'm sure we have all heard at one point or another: time heals all wounds. This simply isn't true either. Time doesn't heal the wounds, it just changes us. In all the other ones, everything happens for a reason, be strong, or some other 3-step plan to help us to move on. And then we have the experience of silence. Yeah. When those we thought would be there for us don't say anything at all, it hurts, and the silence is deafening. And the invisible scars continue. So, what seems like a normal, everyday type of question turns into that dreaded question: how many children do you have? For us grieving moms, we are left with wondering if we should answer accurately for fear of making the other person uncomfortable, or saying the wrong thing and not honoring our babies who are not here. I've personally been in situations, oftentimes comforting complete strangers when they break down crying hearing that I have a child who's passed away. I get that, but imagine living with that hurt and longing for your child every single day of your life. Then there's the scar of seeing everyone else move on with their lives, and we always feel like there's a part of us that's missing, because it is. Grieving moms have to reluctantly embrace a new normal. It's that awkward dance of being happy that your BFF is pregnant, but while you're still grieving the loss of your own child, or seeing a baby that reminds you of your angel, or hearing someone call out your child's name. It's every time we look in the mirror and see the scars of our skin stretched beyond capacity, and our hearts exploding with the love of a child we don't get to carry, and the friends and family, and sometimes even our spouses that we thought would carry us through, who fell off the face of the planet and are not there to support us in our darkest hour. The scars are in the memories of our children. We don't get to create new memories. It's the hours, the days, the weeks, the months, or even minutes that we got to spend with our babies. With every passing milestone for me and my youngest daughter, who is Christopher's twin, I often think there should be 2 babies here. I'm a twin mama. Every birthday I will sing happy birthday with one name, and there will be one cake. And what was once pink and blue, pink remains while blue is etched on my heart. I found myself sobbing watching a Disney movie of all things. The movie called Inside Out that highlights human emotion. It was in that children's film that I fully grasped that joy and sadness could exist at the same time and in the same memory. It's the memories of our babies where I can smile and cry and then smile. And so the theme of last year's annual celebration of life was Flourish. And I know for us grieving moms, the last thing we might think about after losing a child is to flourish. The first goal is just to survive. It's the hardest thing that you'll probably ever have to do in this life. There's simply no just getting over losing a child. You will carry them with you for a lifetime. I would like to suggest, however, that because of the Finley project, we don't have to do it alone. And the thing is, in the beginning, after losing my son, although I cried, I felt like I had to be strong for my other children. I found myself many times stuffing my feelings because it was like everyone else had moved on, whether that was true or not. Or even worse, it was like I didn't have the faith if I was falling apart. So I had to be strong in order to show that I was a good Christian. So I found myself sitting in one of the chairs at the annual celebration, listening to another mom tell her story. And it was that time that the floodgates of tears opened. I felt like someone finally understood the pain that I was carrying, and I didn't have to be strong. I found out that it was okay not to be okay. And I was perfectly okay to feel exactly what I felt, whether that was angry in the moment, numb, confused, whatever the emotion was at that time. I knew then that I was a part of a sisterhood of moms who I certainly didn't choose to join, but through life and the legacy of my son, it chose me. And so for me, to flourish means to grow and develop in a healthy way. Given our circumstances, we did the best. We didn't get to choose the outcome of our babies, but we do get to choose the legacy of our children. My son taught me more in less than 4 years of life than the 36 years that I've been on this earth. And the thing is, the legacy of him has directly or indirectly impacted so many people now and continues to, even through his legacy. And so the lives of our babies are not wasted. And we need to know that it's okay to live and even flourish, even if loss is a part of our story. So, regarding the Finley Project, it's our stories and our experiences. They are all unique, but one thing is for certain: we did not plan on having to bury any of our children. And this is where I'm forever grateful for the Finley Project. Many people had no clue that during the sun that Christopher passed away, my husband was laid off from work and I was a stay-at-home mom. So it was like, how in the world were we going to manage everything now, everything that needed to get done, and we didn't have insurance or anything. And I can't tell you how much that meant to me when we received a Publix gift card in the mail, or to have someone come to my house when I had no desire to clean and they clean. And these things may seem simple, but I cried so deeply because it showed me just how faithful God really is, even in the little things. And so, to those who've given and supported the Finley Project in the past, and to those who are considering now and in the future, I'm thankful for you and for those who have stepped into our stories of people that you may not even know. Moms like me who go through the unthinkable. You see, we aren't just names on a program or on a website. The beautiful babies that you see are our children, and some of them changed our identities and gave us the name Mom for the very first time. And it's not easy being in this type of setting where we're talking about infant loss. But I'm so glad that you are here and you're listening and you want to know more about the realities of life of some of us. And that you're showing us that we care, that you care about us and that we matter. And so the Finley Project has connected me to some amazing moms who all share the same bond, the loss of losing a child. And we know what it means to grieve, the things that other people will never see, the first steps, the trips to the park, what they'll look like as a teenager, all the things that, other people take for granted growing up. And our children will forever remain as memories in our hearts and with this ache and longing for our babies. And we will continue to live the rest of our lives with these invisible scars. And I remember connecting with another mom, and I was just so heartbroken. And we were texting one early morning, and I accidentally called her. Accidentally called her. I don't even remember saying anything, but the fact that she was there and she understood, and I didn't have to be strong in that moment, meant the world to me. And because of the Finley Project, we get to meet and talk together on a consistent basis, to cry, talk, scream, whatever we need to do in that moment. And the work that goes on behind the scenes is so critical. The work that Noelle is doing to go into hospitals, to instruct healthcare workers on how to break bad news so that it doesn't become an even worse sore spot for those of us who are already experiencing the unimaginable of losing a child. I can only think that Noelle had no intention of starting this type of nonprofit, but it was birthed out of necessity and the need in her own life of losing her child and finding out that there wasn't any other type of support like this. What you're seeing here is a legacy of Finley Elizabeth. It's her life that continues to have meaning, and I look forward to meeting this precious baby girl in heaven so I can tell her all about her awesome mommy and what she is doing in her honor, including the countless volunteers that we need and that we rely on. So until that happens, we will live out the legacy that is our children. So for Finley Elizabeth and for my son Christopher Jordan and for all those who are part of the Finley Project, thank you for being such a vital part of helping moms just like me. Thank you.